That comes on the back of a couple other signings that we at least have to mention for the Cubs that I thought was going to be their entire November
Yeah, it
free
was looking
agent
that way at
frenzy.
one point, right?
Yeah. Well, first I'll start with Clint Frazier, who the Yankees DFA'd, former top prospect that just never worked out. And whether that's the spotlight and pressure of New York that worked against him, Cubs signed him to a 1 year deal. Again, Jed's favorite phrase is "There's no bad 1 year deals." So I think that's a shrewd move. The guy's got all the potential in the world, just hasn't put it together. So I like that move. The more curious move is the 2 year deal, $13 million they gave to Yan Gomes,
Yeah, that
as
was
their catcher.
curious.
And the other more curious thing is immediately after that news came out,
Are you
uh,
talking about the emojis? The
yes,
emoji tweet?
Willson Contreras, the standing starting catcher for the Chicago Cubs, had some interesting emoji tweets coming out, which emoji tweets are just so fucking funny to me. Maybe it's just because we're old and it's like we're certainly on social media, but the younger generation has a different way to communicate on social media than I do. I don't think I ever use emojis other than like team logos when I use their hashtags that Twitter adds their graphics to. But Willson posted 4 different airplane emojis, one taking off, one leveling out, and whatever, taking off and landing as
Yeah,
if
basically, yeah.
he's getting the fuck out. And it seemed to be obviously implied that, or inferred that, he was not happy and he'd be leaving Chicago. It's possible he was just saying he's on his way on vacation because of the lockout. I don't know what that meant, but he liked to leave that open to interpretation. But I think it was pretty obvious the timing of it had something to do with the Yan Gomes signing and the fact that Contreras is not signed to a long year deal past 2022. So I could see why there's some logic. I haven't seen him say anything that he was annoyed with how the Cubs have proceeded over the last year, dumping all their huge names, their potential Hall of Fame players, their big name contracts, their legends in the city of Chicago, while Contreras is the last guy left. Everyone else is gone now, and he's by himself. And now they sign essentially what could be his replacement for signing Yan Gomes for 2 years. I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No.
I think it makes sense for the Cubs, who have really struggled to fill that backup catcher position last year.
Yeah.
To sign Yan Gomes, I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think that affects
No.
Contreras necessarily. It affects his leverage in negotiations if he was trying to work out an extension with the Cubs. You know, they've got a backup plan at least for next year and the year after, which they had none before that. So that changes that calculus, I'm sure, which he's not happy about. We may or may not be happy about. We're not sure based on those nebulous emojis, but so I don't know. I think it was worth mentioning in other, any other situation, signing Yan Gomes for 2 years for $13 million is not really noteworthy, other than how it affects Contreras, who is very popular, a fucking awesome catcher. I would love to have him remain on the Cubs. Probably from an owner's side, I probably wouldn't want to sign him to a 10-year deal because that would be foolish with a catcher. As we've seen them drop off in value as their bodies get older and are banged up. So I'd sign him to a short-term deal. I'd love to see him extended, but I'm not sure how that's going to work out. It would be sad to see him go, but I wouldn't be surprised. And in fact, I thought he would be one of the players traded at the deadline last year because of his immense value, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. So that's going to be an interesting situation to see play out over 2022.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it means anything at all. I mean, he's basically turned into, he was more of a starting catcher, and he's definitely more of a platoon guy now, Gomes. So, I mean, he only had 349 at bats in 2021, so that's obviously splitting time. But he's got some decent numbers in those at bats. So you've got, like, to your point, you have a legitimate backup catcher now. There's nothing wrong with having a legitimate backup catcher. In fact, Grandel and having Yasmani and McCannon on the team at the same time was not a bad thing for the White Sox, other than eventually one of the catchers wants more time to be a
Right.
full-time starter, so he
Well,
goes
McCann
elsewhere.
left, in free
Yeah,
agency, so that
yeah,
might be playing out the exact same way. Although
yes.
Grandal is a far more significant offensive threat than
And
Gomes
and
is at this
and
point.
let's be honest, Gomes is 34 years old.
Yeah,
So I
he's
mean,
definitely at the end. This is probably his last contract too. So for that's a really good point actually, because for Contreras to be miffed about that, I think is might be a little
yeah.
little privileged, a bit of a temper tantrum, but
I mean,
maybe he wasn't even miffed at all.
he may have just gone on friggin' vacation, everybody.
I would go on vacation right now. It's a
I
perfect
know,
time to
get
get
out
the
of
fuck
Dodge.
out.
It's
So
cold.
yeah.
It's fucking cold.
Word Hole Media.